must also emphasize parental responsibility and acknowledge that many of our problems start in the home and stem from the failure of parents to discharge their duties and responsibilities to their children. If parents fail or neglect to nurture their children, to teach them right from wrong, to set the right example, and to build sound character, we know how disastrous the outcome can be. It is a truism that parental delinquency begets juvenile delinquency. Dennis Waitley highlights the importance of personal responsibility in this way, and I quote again, "The great gifts you can give your children are the roots of responsibility and the wings of independence." End of quote. Teachers then have to be in the vanguard of the sustained effort which we require as a nation to include the responsibility ethic in the minds of the young. The second of the 3 R's on which to build a foundation that will last is respect. There was a time when we were well known as a people for our self-respect. This was demonstrated by the way we treated people, with courtesy, with civility, the way in which we spoke to people, especially the language we use. 4-letter words seem to be the coinage of the realm. However poor a man was in those earlier days, he took pride in maintaining his dignity and his sense of decency. Today, respect is in short supply. There are too many people who do not respect themselves to begin with. Consequently, they do not care what they do or what they say, and as we say colloquially, they don't care where they spend their Sunday. Let us look at some of the aspects, from which this matter of respect has virtually disappeared. Precious little respect for law, precious little respect for life and limb. And I submit that if we had greater respect, perhaps even reverence for life, there'd be fewer murders. Precious little respect for authority, whether it is the referee or the judge during the carnival. We tend not to respect authority anymore. Lack of respect for the property of others, the rights of others, for older persons, for poorer persons, and quite often, too often, for women. How else do we explain the epidemic of violence, which is rampant throughout the Caribbean against women? Lack of respect for truth. People will say things even though they know it is not true. They just say it. We have lost that respect for truth, for differences, be they personal, religious, political, or what have you. And this is what feeds the intolerance which is so rampant in our society. Lack of respect for other people's space. You walk through any part of Bastia, and you're just astonished at how disrespectful people are for their neighbors. The stereo set is blasting away, and you dare not say anything because, of course, that person feels they have a right to carry on as they're carrying on. Lack of respect for our national anthem, our national flag, and other national symbols. Lack of respect for our heritage and our heritage sites. Lack of respect for our institutions. Lack of respect for our traditions. Lack of respect for sacred things, sacred places. That is our problem. In the heyday of slavery and colonialism, only Massa and the selected few were considered to be entitled to respect. Unfortunately, that mentality has carried over into independence, sadly. That mental attitude needs to be repudiated and rejected. Instead, there needs to be an affirmation and declaration that every human being, made as we all are in the image of God, is entitled to respect. Everyone. Every citizen, regardless of race, color, political persuasion, or status in life, is entitled to the rights and privileges and protections enshrined in our Constitution. Respect must be, but it starts with self-respect. The third R is reasonableness. This ethic is also of critical importance because it is basic to how we relate to each other, how we deal with our problems, and how we resolve our conflicts. One would expect that as knowledge increased and as human beings develop more and more their faculty of reasoning, that they would necessarily become more reasonable. But that is not so. Alexander Hamilton again reminds us that this is not true at all, because he says, man is a reasoning animal rather than a reasonable animal. I wonder if that's true. I think it is. We tend to have the capacity to reason, to rationalize almost anything. But when it comes to being reasonable, to showing the humility of mind, to showing that desire for consensus and for conciliation, count us out.